By 1921, the floodgates for circulating commemorative coins had been breached, and there would be no more holding back the coming tidal wave. It also so happened to have been the 300th anniversary of the Pilgrims' landing at Plymouth in 1621. So, naturally, taking inspiration from the success of the Lincoln Centennial coin 3 years prior and the main coin just a year before, the Pilgrim Tercentenary Commission, through Representative Joseph Walsh, introduced a bill to issue these coins. The original draft called for 500,000 coins to be minted. Supposedly, Walsh claimed that since the 1920 Centennial coin got 100,000 coins for a 100-year celebration, then the 300-year Pilgrim celebration should get 500,000 coins. This was later amended to 300,000, and when asked, it simply claimed that the 500,000 figure was in fact a misprint. The coin was designed by Cyrus E. Dallin, a sculptor from Boston, after sketches provided to him by the Tercentenary Commission. When the design was presented to the Commission of Fine Arts for approval, James Earl Fraser was largely in favor of the design, though he did point out that the design would be greatly helped by good lettering. Dallin was, however, not afforded the time, or even the opportunity for that matter, to amend his design for the better. The Obverse depicts a male pilgrim, said to be a typical example of such of the time. Since no historic portraits or records are available, the artist's impression had to suffice. It was meant to represent Governor William Bradford, who sailed aboard the Mayflower in 1621. He would serve as the elected governor of the community for 30 years, or 15 consecutive 2-year terms. Bradford was a part of the Separatist Church, a religious sect that dissented from the Church of England, and had to flee the country after King James I declared them heretical, or, well, treasonous really, for their puritanical beliefs that challenged the Church of England's moral and religious authority. Now, keep in mind that the Puritans were the same people that banned Christmas because it wasn't Christian enough, and their descendants would, a few decades down the line, be responsible for the Salem witch trials. So, you know, good fun-loving folk all around. But back to the coin. The book in Bradford's arm is alternately described as either a Bible owing to his strong religious beliefs, or, according to the 1920 publication of the Old Colonial Memorial, the book in Bradford's arm is in fact of Plymouth Plantation, a publication of his journals documenting the founding of the colony and the history of the Pilgrims as such. Interestingly, Dallin's initial, which appears just below the Pilgrim's elbow, appears to be struck in with a Denver Mint D mint mark stamp, almost as though an afterthought. Another indication of how little time was given to implement the design of the coin. And before you ask, no, this is definitely not a mint mark, as these coins were exclusively struck at Philadelphia. According to David Bowers, the original plaster models for this coin actually did include Dallin's full initials of CED in full relief, and not simply an incused D as we see here on the coin. The reverse of the coin suitably depicts the Mayflower in full sail on a choppy ocean, representing the Pilgrim's journey to the New World aboard the now famous vessel. Another indication of how rushed the design actually was is that the Mayflower is depicted here with a triangular-shaped flying jib-type sail, an anachronism as that invention only came much later, and it should have been depicted with a square water sail as the depiction on the commemorative 1-cent stamp of the same year by Charles Aubrey Houston clearly and correctly shows. The date is given as 1620 to 1920, indicating the tercentenary celebrations as such. The original mintage for these coins in 1920 was 200,112 coins, which includes 112 pieces sent to the Assay Commission. The Pilgrim Tercentenary Commission was responsible for distributing the commemorative $5 coins. They did so using primarily the National Shawmut Bank in Boston, along with several smaller points of distribution at local celebrations where the public could purchase the coins at a cost of $1 apiece, with the profits intended to pay for said celebrations and the regular business of the commission. There was no original mint or government packaging for the coins. They were simply sent out to the Shawmut Bank in bags, with a few third parties choosing to produce their own packaging for the coin. One such was the Society for Colonial Wars in the state of Rhode Island and Providence plantations. Another known example, for instance, includes the People's Savings Bank of Massachusetts and the Second National Bank of Boston. These contemporary holders are really quite rare today and are seldomly ever encountered anymore. Sales for the coins proceeded at a brisk pace, and by the end of the year, 48,000 coins were returned to the mint as unsold for remelting, leaving a final mintage and distribution figure for 1920 at 152,112 coins. But then, the commission had the bright idea to try and milk the collectors for as much as they can. And since the act authorizing the coins did not specifically say the coins had to be minted in 1920 and a maximum mintage of 300,000 coins was allowed, they ordered another 100,000 coins in 1921. The mint added the 1921 date on the Obverse field to the left of the Pilgrim, creating the two main varieties for this issue. But the public did not fall for the ploy, and most of the fanfare for the celebrations had long since died down. Also, the country was at that point in a recession, and the coins simply did not sell, and by year's end, 80,000 1921 dated Pilgrim $half were sent back to the mint to be remelted. That is an astonishing 80% of the original mintage, leaving a final mintage and distribution figure for the 1921 version of this coin of 20,053 coins, which also includes the 53 coins sent to the Assay Commission for testing. Since the majority of, well, especially the 1920 coins, went to the general public and not to the numismatic community, and since there was no special packaging for the coins, contact and bag marks, as well as signs of wear and handling, is really fairly commonplace. Grading the coin is fortunately fairly straightforward. Waypoints to examine on the obverse includes the brim of Bradford's hat, his cheekbone and hair just above the ear, followed directly by the details on the shoulder, sleeve, as well as his beard. As you can expect, these will progressively lose detail and start to blend together as the coin slides further and further down the Sheldon scale. For the reverse, meanwhile, examine the ship's rigging. In non-maritime terms, simply the ropes, the cables and chains which support the sails and masts of the ship, as these are likely the first points to lose detail with handling. Also, pay close attention to the crow's nest and the details on the entire stern of the ship as well. For the variety or error coin collectors, there are several instances known of this coin from either date, mind you, exhibiting signs of clash marks. This can be very overt or a lot more subtle, but many coins also show clear evidence of die polish lines, especially on the obverse fields where clash marks would have been removed at the mint by polishing the dies. Today, the Pilgrim $half is fairly easy to obtain, although may pose a challenge if you are looking for a gem-level unblemished example, although naturally the 1921 coin is overall slightly more elusive, due purely to the lower mintage. Circulation grade coins will sell for around $50 to $80 each for the 1920 coin, depending largely on the coin's overall eye appeal, with the 1921 piece getting about double as much on the open market. Although, since most of the 1921 coins went straight to the numismatic market, they tend to be in better shape overall than the 1920 coins, which may well have been spent during hard times. Stepping up to an MS-63 example from there, prices increase very little and generally hover around the $100 mark, although may peak around the $150 for a particularly attractive example. The census report suggests the greatest concentration of coins graded at the MS-64 level for both the 1920 and 1921 examples today. A jump in grade to a gem MS-66 coin will see the value increase to around $250 to potentially $350 for the 1920 coin, and a bump to $450 to even $600 for the 21. In 2019, an MS-67 Plus example from PCGS of the 1920 Pilgrim $half was sold at auction for $7,200. And in 2020, a coin from 1921, also graded MS-67 Plus by PCGS, was sold at auction for the sum of $7,050. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon so you'll know when new videos are released. For World Numismatic News, I'm Numisman saying thank you for watching, stay safe, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.